let's explore heuristics for a design problem some of you may be currently wrestling with. What's the appropriate granularity for a microservice? All right? Simple question. Should have some heuristics for that. So Sam Newman, who wrote Building Microservices, in my opinion, enigmatically says there should be small enough and no smaller. Okay, To me, that's not a heuristic because I cannot take action with that. All right. On the other hand, he said a lot of good things. In his book is a good book. Ben Morris talks about the boundaries for the size. An upper bound should be a bounded context, but no smaller than an aggregate. So if you know domain-driven design concepts, this will have meaning to you about how to start. Another person, Stephen Tilkoff, says, well, instead of talking about the size, I'm going to talk about the number of them. I'm going to end up with maybe a dozen, 20 or 30. But more importantly, he says, I think that for any given interaction, I should touch a limited number of those. And finally, just to show you that experts don't agree, Udi Dahan says, well, there should be the reason for structuring things around and forming a microservice should be that the data is, when the data changes, it only impacts a single service. So he tends to see pretty big services, the way he structures things. So, all right. So at this point, if you're new to microservices, or even if you're experienced, you might feel a bit confused. Okay, if you know domain-driven design concepts, you might suspect that at first cut, identifying a bounded context, and there are talks here about how do I identify the bounds of a bounded context. But then over time, maybe you're going to split it up into smaller functionality. And if you followed Nate Schuda's heuristics, he gave several heuristics for how you might do that, based on behavioral complexity or rates of change. So the point is, experts, I guess, will disagree. Heuristics are often in conflict with each other, but that's okay. Competing heuristics give us options. There's more than one way to architect a system, and each of those heuristics makes sense under certain circumstances, and if you don't have the same conditions, the specific advice that some expert gives you might not be useful. So what do? Choose the heuristic you choose from the best option at the time you're required to choose. All right? It's your judgment call. And your judgment is based on your context, your preference, and your experience.